Get to 20K call. My name is Stevie. I'm your host today. I'm very blessed to have a good friend of mine, Mr. Alex Strate. He's an executive vice president, sells 40, 50 grand a month with us here at Family First Life. He's going to be sharing his nuggets with us today. But before we hop onto the call and we let some guys basically hop in, you know, I was so jaded about life insurance and the industry because I used to do these network marketing things and MLM deals. And I remember when people used to talk about dream building, like it was almost like cheesy, right? And like I almost forgot to learn how to dream again, if that makes sense. And I was with Alex in Florida, and we were sitting, we're just hanging out at a work meeting, and I vividly remember Alex just, there's probably 15 of us, and Alex was like, "Hey, Steve, like, when was the last time you made a dream board?" And I was like, "Dude, stop." Right? Like I haven't done one of those in a while, nor do I want to. And he was like, "No, like seriously, like if you can see yourself driving your car, like what kind of car would it be?" And I was like, "All right, I'll play this game," and I was like, I'd want a BMW M4. And he was like, "Well, what year?" And I'm like, "Well, I hate the new ones. So like I definitely would get, like at least an 18 or a 19. He was like, "Okay." He's like, "What color is the outside?" I was like, "White. I only drive white cars." And he was like, "What color is the interior?" And I'm like, "Black." And he's like, "Okay." He's like, "So like a little bit of carbon?" I'm like, "Yeah, a little bit of carbon here and there is fine." And he was like, "Cool, man. So like, do you see yourself driving that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." Right. But it was so awkward because I haven't done that in such a long time. And what was fascinating was like, I want to say 6 or 7 months go by and was able to, buy my car. And the first thing I thought about when I bought my car was, oh my gosh, I had this conversation with Alex. Like we spoke this thing into existence. You know what I mean? And I was like, and I forgot how to dream. And at Family First Life, if you work hard for it, you can definitely get it. Right. And I'm a big fan of that. So, Alex, thank you most importantly for letting me do that again. And, it's just a good reminder that there's things that we want that you definitely deserve, whether it's a new home for your family or whatever it is. Like if you work for it, you can definitely get it. So, but enough with that. I'm here to interview Alex today. So, Alex, man, hey, share with us your quick story for those that don't know you, your background, how you fell into Family First Life, all that good stuff, if you would mind for the next few minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would love to. So first off, appreciate you having me on, man. This is a privilege to be on your call. And, the voice of FFL, right? The voice of the Rogue IMO, Stephen Yee, anyone that works with you, definitely a privilege to be able to work with someone as talented as yourself, as systematic as yourself, really laying out the blueprint on calls like this. And so definitely appreciate the invite. But before Family First Life, before insurance, I worked in digital marketing. So was making about 10 to 13,000 a month, but I didn't own my time at all. My clients owned 100% of my time with deadlines and projects to always work on. And it got to a point where I realized that there's plenty of ways to make money in today's economy, but making money isn't the most important thing. It's also about the kind of lifestyle you can set up for yourself, the residual income components you can set up for yourself, and the impact you can have on people. Because working behind a computer screen all day, not dealing with people, just pushing buttons, making websites, analyzing numbers and data, for some people, that's their calling, fulfillment in life. For me, it wasn't. I'm a people person. I like helping people. And even though I was making really good money at 21 years old, I just realized I needed more out of life. And so that's when I was starting to be open-minded to seeing what other kind of careers I could get into. And some of my friends actually from the network marketing days were posting about a different insurance company and how well they were doing. And that's what kind of piqued my interest about the insurance industry. So hit them up, got my answers, packed up my life, moved from Vegas to Arizona to work with this other company. Wow. Extremely grateful. Yeah, extremely grateful for the opportunity. I was there for about 6-7 months. Realized very quickly that a captive agency did not provide the kind of flexibility that I desired in my career. Felt way too structured for me. I liked a little bit of independence, but I realized that insurance was the right industry. I just had to find the right company with the right kind of support systems that I desired. And made the switch from that captive agency to Family First Life in December of, is it 18, I believe? It'll be 3 years in December of this year. So December of 18, wrote my first policy, January of 19, and haven't looked back, man. It was not a fast start. It's so funny. This call's called Get to 20K. I didn't get to 20K till my 8th month, man. My first 7 months.
But that's the beauty of this, man, is not everybody has a gun blazing start. Not everybody goes out and writes 20K their first month. Like, dude, it took me 3 months. Took some other guys on our team a little bit longer than that, but it's okay because we run our own race, right? I've always said it, like, I love Brandon's logo, FFL marathon. It is a marathon. It's not a sprint. There's a lot of people that wrote 20 grand their first month and they're no longer here. There's a lot of people that took 5, 6 months, 10 months to write 20 grand, but guess what? Now they're writing 30, 40, 50 every month. So it's not about how you start, but it's how you finish. I'm a big fan of that. And I believe it is a marathon. But let's dive into it. I mean, before we dive into your in-home and your live transfers and all that stuff, but you came from another place. And what I've realized is for a lot of people that are like myself, where we're born into this company, like I got my insurance license and worked at FFL, and most of the people on the call have. Can you explain how like blessed we are? Because you guys come from a company where you were from previously, where like your leads were really, really skeptical, right? Mm-hmm. Comp was really bad. You didn't have very many options. Like, can you kind of share with how bad the rest of the industry really is compared to what we have here?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely don't want to talk bad specifics about a specific company, but if you were just to compare apples and oranges, right?
Right.
If you were to look at the exact same amount of work, right? Let's say you spend an hour in a home, and in one company you can get paid 100% comp, and in another company you're getting paid 50% comp.
Yeah.
I don't care how good your product is, the 50% comp company, you're literally taking half of your food off the table. Yep. Like if you write $20,000, you're only making 10 versus making 20. That's $120,000 a year difference for doing the exact same work. So comp definitely matters, and so do leads. One thing I love about FFL, especially with the recent adoption of all these virtual sales, is that it's always evolving. Right. When I started, we didn't really have a CRM, and Facebook leads, Facebook final expense were a brand new thing. And there were a couple people that were doing mailers, but it wasn't really talked about. And then you look at now, I mean, there's got to be 30 plus lead options. And obviously, as a new agent, you got the basics, you got to work to build the habits. But as your skill sets evolve, I mean, you could literally run this business and make your money however you want, because we've got so many different lead options. And so the structure that we have from a training perspective, with everything being free, the lead availability that we have, comp definitely matters. If another company won't talk about comp, it's because their comp isn't good. That's why we got it from the mountaintops, right? So little things like that we take for granted. And I think the hardest part for a new agent to get down is just the habits to make money here, which is the phones. It's buying the leads and working the phones. And people think that that's so hard and that's so bad. But like, yeah, sign me up for 100 leads that at some point in the past requested life insurance, versus you get 40 leads a month. They requested, child safety kits, or they requested a free union package, and you get 40 leads to work all month, and that's it. You can't use anything else. Right. Like when you look at the different kind of structures of what's out there, I'm grateful that I could swipe my credit card, bet on my skills and bet on myself, and just work through the numbers. And if that's the worst part about FFL, we got a pretty good gig here, man.
Right. So that's the thing is, I've always said, if you can control your cash, if you can control your lead flow, you can control your cash flow. That's a big deal. Right. And it's like, for example, like let's say I worked at that other company with you and you got 40 and I got 40, but let's say you were way hungrier of an agent than I am. Why are you capped? Right. And that's the beauty of Family First Life, is like, if someone brand new, kind of like Steven, wants to get started and goes, you know what, I'm going to go make 50 grand this month. He can. It's up to him. It's the lead flow. It's not mine. Right. Versus someone that goes, you know what, I only want to do 5 to 10 grand. Well, that's their plan too. So that's what I love about this company. But let's dive into it. So, you produce at a high level, you build a big agency, you lead from the front. What type of lead flow does someone of your caliber use?
Yeah. So there are some things that I'm doing now that I wish I did when I started. The very first thing is I wish I got more leads faster.
Okay.
I mentioned earlier how I didn't get to 20K until my 8th month. My 8th month was the first month that I started getting leads. Before that, I heard it over and over, betting on my management and my ability to watch YouTube videos and trainings and learn, I was still skeptical, and I didn't want to invest the money. I liked investing some money. I would spend maybe 300 a week, 500 a week, and I'd write 8K, 10K, 12K a month. But that eighth month was finally when I like put my foot down and said, you know what? I've been here long enough. I'm making good money, not great money. I need to like just trust that this thing will actually work. And I'm going to spend $1,000 a week for the first time every single week this month. I'm even regardless of the results, I'm just going to commit to it for 4 weeks, and did it and wrote the 20K. So a roundabout answer to your question is that I don't think lead type matters. Like, we'll get into specific lead types, but at the end of the day, on average, for every $1,000 you spend on leads, you're going to write ballpark 5,000 of annual premium as a new agent. As you get better, that number should improve, right? But as a brand new agent, if you want to guarantee your success, if you're spending less than $1,000 a week, you're going to be making less than $5,000 a week of premium. It's just the way the numbers work out. And so if you're trying to write 20K a month, but you're only spending $1,000 for the month, your odds are against you, man. It's really hard. Even someone talented as you, Steven, or someone's been around as long as I, trying to flip $1,000 of leads into $20,000 of premium, it's not likely. Like, we have to put the leads on our side.
I'm so glad you said that. So I had this gentleman that I was working with very closely, and my number's always been 1 to 4, 1 to 5. Everybody that I talk to, anybody that's ever gone on a new agent call with me, I'm always like, hey, for every dollar I spend, I make 4 to 5. What that basically means is every dollar I spend, I'll issue 5 to 6 grand, deposit 4 to 5 grand. Like, that's just my numbers, my ratio. That's what I've done. Right. And so I was working with this new agent. He was trying to get to 10K a week, like, cause that's kind of like a standard here. And it was fascinating because, he submitted, I think, like $6,500 or $7,000 that week. And he was pissed. And I was like, why are you so mad? When is doing $6,500 or $7,000 such a bad thing? He's like, I'm pissed because I didn't get to 10. And I'm like, okay, that's a good, good mindset to have. But what'd you spend in leads? And he was like, I spent $1,000 on leads. I'm like, huh. So I spend 1,000 to make 5. So I spend 2,000 to make 10. You spend 1,000 to make 6,500, and you're pissed you didn't write 10. So, like, are you indirectly saying you're better than me and a lot of the other agents here at FFL because you can stretch your dollar more on leads? I was like, the easiest way for you to get to 10 is double up, right? Like, stop shaking that lead batch for more fruit. Just go buy another batch. Go get another tree. You know what I mean? And it's like, so many agents get caught up on that. They go, like, I bought this batch of leads, I'm going to squeeze every juice out of it. And I'm like, you can, but like, in the process of you doing that, your second and third week's going to suck because you don't have very many new leads to work. Right. And that's why, like I said, with Brandon, like, I love the fact that he stacks the deck, because you can buy 100 leads in week 1, book 15 appointments. You still got 85 leads going in week 2. It doesn't mean you call those 85 leads, just those. You buy another 100. So now you have 185 leads to call. Then you book 15 or 20 out of those. And then now you go, boom, the next week I got 250 leads to call. Why? Because now you stack the deck. And that's one thing I think that brand new agents don't understand, right? It's just that they go, hey, I buy one batch of leads. That means if I buy 100 leads, I can work that batch if I book 20 appointments for 5 weeks. No, it don't work that way, right? Yeah. So, cool. So, recently you've been supplementing with live transfers. Thank you, by the way, for your training, because it's been phenomenal, where you record the whole thing and, show people the real actual process. Because so many of us, the agents that I talk to, they go, well, that's a demo. That is a, mock in-home presentation. You were, you're amazing to the point where you made the real life presentation. You bleeped out the client's personal information for us to actually hear what it sounds like. When did you start supplementing with live transfers, and why?
I think the biggest reason why is because I definitely still want to produce at a high level, but I'm also so focused on the agency production that I wanted to make sure that I had enough opportunities to get in front of people. And again, like, even though I've been around for almost 3 years here at FFL, I'm far from imperfect. And I was finding myself coming up with excuses about why I can't dial right now and go book appointments. And so for me, like, the honest answer was, I was being too lazy on my in-person face-to-face schedule. And I'm not scared to admit that, because it's something that happens to all of us at some point in our career. We start coming up with excuses about why we can't do this, why we can't do that. And so I've said to myself, I need to find a way to commit to spending more money on leads, because if I do that, I'm going to be forced into action. What better way than to swipe my credit card for 60, 70, 80, 90, $100 and literally have someone call me ready to buy insurance? Like, I'm willing to spend the money if I can have the conversations. What better way to do that? And so, so that was what got me intrigued with it. And in my brain, when I signed up for live transfers, instead of spending $1,000 in the CRM that week, I just put $1,000 down on live transfer leads. And I told myself my goal is to get as many live transfers as I can this week to go through this $1,000. So same kind of mindset as spending the $1,000, doing the dials, running the appointments. I still spent the $1,000, and my goal was to use the full $1,000, not just milk it over 3, 4, 5 weeks and tell myself I was working. No, let me spend this money and go through it, so I have to reinvest again next week, just like we're supposed to every single week buying leads.
Right. So how did that, once you started doing that, I mean, you run instance, you run mortgage, direct mail, you run everything. How was live transfers so different for you?
I think the biggest thing with live transfers is the super high intent to buy, and how there's very little beating around the bush. Even when, even in our regular in-home presentation, we're still not building a ton of rapport. We're still getting right down to business right away. But with live transfers, most people that are calling in, they're not calling in to just chit chat. They're calling in because they just need something done, and they need it done quick. And so in the beginning, I was spending a little bit too much time chit chatting. And I've learned as I've done it more and more, you just got to get right to the point. And the more direct you are with them over the phone, one is, I think it builds a sense of appreciation, because they don't want to just sit on the phone and talk to a stranger all day that's going to try to sell them insurance. And two, it allows you to have more control, where when you ask for social, bank account, date of birth, address, etc., it's just flying off the tongue, because they're like, cool, this guy's got a system, this guy's got a process. I know if I just give him what I need, I'll have this taken care of in 20 minutes. And I don't want to be here all day talking on the phone. So the directness has been hugely valuable. And most of my sales that I get are 30 minutes or less on the phone, because they know exactly what they want. I just got to do the financial inventory to figure out which company. And then we're doing an app. And literally it's a 10-15 minute app. So it's very direct.
So compared to being actually physically in a home, how much time have you probably shaved off your in-home?
Probably shaved about 15 minutes off the in-home.
Wow.
And that's usually the time that I would spend petting the dogs. So I do miss petting the dogs. But it's been, again, it's refreshing to know that, especially as a supplement, man, it's really hard to do it just strictly. I wouldn't recommend it strictly live transfers or strictly telesales unless you have a background in doing something like that. But as a supplement on your dial day, or as a supplement between appointments, or if you're in a certain life situation where you got to stay at home with the kids or something like that, absolutely a great resource to get 15 people a week to talk to. You close half of them, there's 6-7K off of that $1,000, which is going back to the exact same math that we were talking about. You spend $1,000 to make your 5 or 6.
Right.
So,
and I love that you said that you wouldn't just run strictly live transfers, because I'm always a fan of, everything works a little bit. Right. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that was when I went Hall of Fame last year and people were like, what did you run? I'm like, everything. I ran mortgage. I ran final expense. I ran instance. Why? Because at the end of the day, I just wanted a client that knew that they wanted life insurance. I didn't care if it was for final expense or mortgage or internet leads, because there's plenty of times where I would go to a mortgage appointment and sell them final expense. I would go to a final expense appointment and sell them mortgage, or I go to an internet lead and sell them anything, right? I didn't care about necessarily the type of appointment. I just wanted a client that knew I was going to be there to sell them life insurance. And so I say that because so many people go, well, these leads, I don't like them as much, or these leads, I don't like them much. Dude, I've sold every lead type and gotten profitable with every lead type I've ever had. I've never bought a batch of leads here at Family First Life and not at least broke even or turn a profit, right? If I picked up $1,000 worth of 3-month CRM instant internet leads, like the 3-month-old ones, you can't tell me on 300 leads, I can't pick up at least 2 sales. Yep. There's no way. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So
All comes
like,
down to work ethic.
it's just work ethic. And so for me, it's like when you're brand new, you have one of two things. You either have a lot of time and you don't have money. So therefore you got to buy the leads that are cheaper. You get volume, like you get 200, 300 leads of those. Why? Because you got to make up in numbers what you lack in skill. Right. Or if you have money, but enough time, you buy the higher premium leads, which lessens your downtime. But at the same time, it still costs you money because you either have one or the other. Right. And so for me, that's why I think for a lot of people that just want to go dive directly into live transfers, I'm like, it's foolish. Why? Because if you can't close an $11 lead, what makes you think you can close a $60, $70, $80 lead? Because a lead's a person that just wants insurance. There's nothing more than that.
I agree. The way I've been setting up a lot of my newer agents that, I have not been scared to talk about the virtual sales, where in the past I was. And so now when I'm setting them up, I'm getting them their training, their boot camp and stuff, but I'm also sending them FFL virtual sales. And I'm letting them know, like, hey, just so you know, the virtual sales is kind of an add-on to the base content of boot camp. You have to learn how to have your phone skills, how to do your presentation, and your favorite 2 to 4 companies that you can kind of rely on. You have to learn that first. And so definitely kind of start over the next 2 to 4 weeks, get that down, but start supplementing and start getting your mind ready for virtual sales. And John, as soon as you got 10, 15, 20,000 in sales and you feel confident and you've ran 2, 3, 4 carriers a couple times, you let me know and we'll sit down and talk about some virtual options. But you got to get this in person, face-to-face stuff down first, because I don't want you to get on the phone with someone, John, that costs you 80, $90 and you freeze because you don't know what to do. I'm sure you don't want that either, right? You'd rather have you in a situation where you're in a home, they can't kick you out. You can call a manager for help. A lot harder to do that when you're on the phone with someone ready to buy right away. Wouldn't you agree, John? Yes. So I'm setting the stage day one that let's get your skills down first. And as soon as you feel like you're at a point, if you want to, then we can start talking about supplementing with some of those other lead types. I'm kind of like building a vision for what the next month or two should look like for them. Let's work hard to get the skills. Then we can talk about supplementing.
Because the skills transfer. An in-home presentation is an in-home presentation. We're collecting information and finding out what program works best for them. Whether we do it on the phone or whether we do it in person, it's the same thing. The skill that I think a lot of new agents get stuck on, and I agree with you 100%, is if you freeze on an app, like if you're on the Americo app, or you're on the Mutual of Omaha app, or the Aetna app, or whatever app that you use, and you freeze because you've never done it before. Now you're like, trying to rush to get the thing done, and the client can hear you and they feel the uneasiness. That's where you lose a sale, compared to if you've done that app a few times, like it's second nature to you. Right. So I love that. How many states do you have? Non-resident states?
Total states I'm licensed in is 29.
29.
So,
wow.
Yeah, it's built up from the agency stuff over the time.
Right.
I don't think you need 29 to do live transfers, but I do think you need at least 10 and 15 to do it successfully. And there are a lot of states that only cost 10, $15 to get a non-resident license. But if you have just one state and you're going to be sitting there trying to get live transfers, I mean, you're pulling from a very small pool. And that's why, again, it's another investment to get those extra licenses and all that. So not recommended maybe right away day one, but if you're listening to this call and you're new, like get to your manager and say, hey, I'm going to get 20K. I'm going to get to 20K in sales. By that point, I'm going to have a little extra cash. And then I want you to help me get set up with some non-resident states. I want you to help me get set up with some of this virtual stuff. I like what I've heard. So let's get these skills down and then let's get to work. So
with those, 29 states, when you do turn it on, because I'm assuming you don't literally leave it on, 80 hours a week, but when you do leave them on, how often do you get calls?
Usually when I have it on, I'm getting a call within 15 minutes of every time I flip the switch on.
No way.
Yeah, and I do use 2 different vendors. And so I'm, again, just like in FFL, where we're not dependent on one source. Same thing with these live transfers. I'm trying to diversify, and there's things I like about both of the vendors, and there's things I don't like about both of the vendors. And so for me, though, especially with something like this, it's all a volume play. I'm not going to sit there and call myself a work day and only get 3 calls in 10 hours and say I worked today and sit around on my phone the rest of the time. Like, make some outbound dials on instant internet leads. If you get a call coming in, stop doing that and then take your live transfer again as a supplement, but don't just be reliant on sitting there, fingers crossed. Any minute now it's going to come in. Any minute now it's going to come in. 2 hours later, any minute now it's going to come in. Like, that's not working. You got to actually work. And so
Right.
I have my bid up high, and I got multiple vendors, and both of them are on, and I'm waiting for that lead to come in, and it usually takes no longer than 15 minutes. So
Gotcha. Are you using all web, data lot, EverQuote?
both those.
Both
Yep,
all
both
web
of
and
those.
data lot?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Nice. That's because I was just curious, because I've heard, like you said, man, and it's so fascinating because we were just talking about this at the Vegas office yesterday. There's no perfect lead vendor and there's no perfect carrier. There's things that America does that we love, and there's things they do that we drives us nuts. And then there's things like John Hancock they do that they're a great product, but their contracting drives us freaking nuts, right? Lead vendors are the same, guys. Like, there's things that one company does better than the other, and then there's things that other companies do better than them. That's why you want diversity. You want everything, right? You just want a client at the end of the day that knows they need life insurance. So, got it. So they come in pretty quick for you. I mean, every 15 minutes, if you wanted to, legitimately in a day, you can probably take 10, 15 calls. You can legitimately have 10, 15 appointments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then that's the beautiful part about it, is that if you're willing to up your bid and spend more, once you get it down, I was talking to Jesse Hantla at the Vegas office, and he didn't do this his first week doing live transfers, but the other week he did 32,000 in a week off live transfers. And I asked him, like, dude, how'd you get so many live transfers? He said, I just turned my bid up. Like, once I got this down and I figured out what kind of ads they were seeing by talking to them, where their head was at, what their mindset was like. At that point, I was willing to pay $100 a lead, and that's what he said he was paying. Right now, my bid's about 85. His bid is about 100, and he's like, I'm getting calls every 5 minutes. So that's the beautiful part about it, is that once you get it down, it's as scalable as you want it to be. If you wanted to keep it as a supplement, keep it as a supplement. If you want to do it full time because your home situation, you got to be home, do it full time. But it's definitely something that can be ramped up, and it's exciting to know that, hey, if I just commit to this through the rest of this year, and I give this a good 60, 90 days going into the national launch conference, going into convention, I can totally reinvent the way that FFL works for me. And this might be the breakthrough that I'm looking for to get to that 20K mark. So,
right. And see, that's the thing, is like, how many times do we preach to people like, hey, in the next 2 days, run 15 appointments because you'll sit on 10 and close 5. Mm-hmm. Well, you can legitimately buy that.
Yep.
You can buy your 20K, 30K, 40K producer status. That's the thing that I think is so attractive about the way that we're growing at FFL, is you can legitimately go, okay, if I want 15 appointments, I'm going to get 15 appointments the next 2 days, right? Mm-hmm. You'll spend, what is it, 60, 70, $80 a pop a lead. So you'll spend probably about $1,000, no problem. 1,000 for the next 2 run days, 1,000 for the next, you spend $2,000 to write 10. Like, those are the numbers.
Yep.
Right. What's your closing rate on these live transfers?
I've actually been tracking it right now. It's at 44%.
Wow, that's high.
Yeah. Again, they're very high intent. I think that there were 1 or 2 that kind of slipped through my fingers, and then I think there were 1 or 2 that I didn't expect to close, and they actually committed to it. So, I feel like once it's kind of similar to FFL. We tell everyone, if you sit with 20, if you book 20, you're going to sit with 10 to 12. You're going to close about half, right? 5 to 6, kind of similar here, right? Or if I get my 15 sits, I'm closing, 6 to 8. Just depending on the ratio, but right around that 40, 50% mark. So very similar numbers as your sits with FFL. You're just paying basically, $80, $90 for a sit. It's basically what you're paying for.
What's your average premium you think you're getting out of those clients?
I did the math on my first 10 policies, and I wrote $8,200 a premium in my first 10 policies. And so a couple of them were a little bit smaller, and this is again where I'm still figuring things out. The way my filters are set up, I got a lot of the final expense coming in, which very easy sales. I'm on the phone for 24 minutes, but the policy is $38 a month, which is great. For 24 minutes, I'll take a $500 premium in 24 minutes.
$500 and you spent $80. Like, you returned 5 times your money. That's not a bad thing.
Nope, not at all. So it's one of those things that it's very there's definitely ways to adjust with it. I still haven't mastered it by far. I'm still figuring it out myself as well. But the one thing I did do is I wasn't scared to give it a shot.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing, is like, I committed that first week I did live transfers, man. I put $1,000 down, and I said, I'm going to spend this $1,000 hell or high water. I'm going to figure out how these leads come in and how I'm get charged. I don't know how it works yet, but dang it, they told me if I put the money down, the leads will come in. So I'm going to put the 1,000 down and I'm going to tweak with it and figure it out. And I did. So
how's your in-home presentation like? So let's say the call transfer comes in. Are you going straight into financial inventory right then and there? Are you pre-qualifying with the questions? Because I know some companies have a buffer, right?
Yeah.
How are you treating all that?
So for me, I'm not trying to use the buffer if I don't have to. Because again, I'm still so grateful for the opportunity that spend 80, 90 bucks and have someone to talk to about life insurance. And when you're at 100% plus comp, I think you just put the numbers in your favor. You can't possibly lose with that. So for me, I'm not trying to disqualify them in the first, 60, 90 seconds. I am asking a lot of questions, and if they really are a terrible lead, they'll disqualify themselves. And you'll hear it in the phone. Like they'll sound high as a kite. You'll be hearing some slamming, and you're like, I don't know if that's a door slamming or a gunshot. Like, so you'll know if it's a really bad lead. You'll like find a way to disconnect yourself, right? But most of the time, when I'm sitting down, I'm imagining like I just got to the table of an in-home, and I'm sitting down, and there's full intent that we'll be sitting down and talking insurance. And so that's how I treat it, is like right when I sit down in my in-home, when I get that call coming in, I'm sitting down at the table. I'm not trying to like figure out if I should still walk through the door, if that makes sense.
Right.
So Stephen, want to role play for 3-4 minutes?
Yeah, dude.
Do this. Cool. So call comes in, I get a call from the company, and they say, hey, I got Stephen on the line in Nevada. He is looking for life insurance. One moment for a brief introduction. While it's happening, I'm refreshing my screen on my computer because I got my little back office thing logged in, and I'm clicking refresh. Boom, Stephen's info pops up. So now I got whatever info you filled out, just like an internet lead online, whatever info you filled out. Another thing that's important to know, I think, is that most of these leads that are being talked to are people that filled out a form at some point online for life insurance. So just like our internet lead, but most of them are being contacted through an outbound call center. So it's not like they're filling out a form in real time and calling in. They have filled out a form. They just got an outbound call. Their info got verified, and then they said, okay, we're going to connect you with an agent to get you your quote. And so that's the mentality of where they're at right now, is they're looking for a quote, and the timing, who knows what they're doing. They could be at work, they could be driving, they could just be sitting at their house. Right. I think that's important to know. And when I'm asking questions up front, I'm trying to figure out if we're doing this right here, right now, or if I need to set an appointment to call them after work or something like that. So
how do you determine that?
The question, we'll do the role playing right now. But the way I set it up in the first 3 to 5 minutes, I'm like letting them know what we're about to do right away. And so if I get pushback on that, I'm scheduling an appointment. If I'm not getting pushback on that, then we're moving forward and we're doing it right then and there. So let me get some water and let's go ahead and role play real quick. So
let's do it.
All right. So Alex, I got Stephen on the line looking for life insurance in Nevada. One moment for a brief introduction. They click me in. Stephen, this is your licensed agent, Alex. He's going to help you out. Have a great day. And then they hang up. And then usually I wait for them to say thank you, because they always say thank you to the operator person. So that way I know that like they're hearing it. And then I'll say, hey, Stephen, this is Alex. I'm here to help you with your life insurance today. How are you doing?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm good, man. I'm good. And I see you're calling out of Nevada. Is it starting to cool off a little bit out there, or is it still pretty warm?
It's cool. It's cold. 65 degrees today.
Oh, wow. Okay. Gotcha. Well, I'm based out of Texas, and I'm licensed in 29 states, and I do this full time, but similarly here in Texas, it's starting to cool off a little bit as well. So tell me a little bit about what exactly you were looking for, just to get right to it. I mean, I'm sure you kind of had an idea in mind with your life insurance. What are you looking to protect today?
I saw an ad online, and I figure why not click the information, see what I can get.
Nice. Okay. Have you ever owned life insurance before, or is this your first time doing this?
I've looked at it before, but I never really got anything. I don't know what things cost, and just trying to figure out how I can put a little bit of protection in place.
Gotcha. And what exactly are you trying to protect? Do you have like a home that needs to be paid off? Do you have kids that depend on you? Like who would the money go to when something happens to you?
My wife and my kids.
Nice. And how many kids do you got?
One on the way.
One. Oh, good for you. Okay. And so they're still in the household then? They're minors?
Yeah, they're minors.
Gotcha. Okay. And so are you currently working right now, or you're not working?
I am working.
Nice. And so do you have some sort of work insurance set up, or do you have nothing set up at all?
I have a little bit of work insurance. I think it's like 2 or 3 times my salary.
Okay, gotcha. Do you understand the difference between like work insurance versus private insurance?
Not really.
Not really. Okay, cool, cool. Well, hey, I definitely applaud you for kind of checking this out and learning how this whole thing goes. Let me kind of just briefly share with you how that works and kind of how I can help you out today. So, work insurance, you should definitely keep it. Really great as long as you're at the job, but it's kind of like a company car where if something were to happen to you and you're no longer at the job, whether it's voluntarily leaving or involuntarily leaving, like through getting fired or an illness, then your work insurance wouldn't pay out. And so most people, like yourself, that have kids, has a wife, has a kid on the way, you have a job, so you obviously your family's dependent on you and your income. You don't want to just rely on just that job. You want to own something yourself as an individual to take control, make sure your family isn't, screwed up if something were to happen to you during the worst week of their life. And so I'm assuming that's what you're looking for, is something private that you own, as long as it's, financially comfortable, to make sure your family is taken care of. Is that's what you're looking for, right, Stephen?
Yeah. But how long is this going to take? Because I was just looking
Yeah.
for quotes.
Yeah, gotcha. Perfect. So, and you said you've never done this before over the phone, right? It's your first time?
No.
Okay. Let me kind of explain how I can help you out and see if we can kind of get this knocked out. So I'm a broker. I work with 20 plus companies. And so I'm not a captive agent like just a State Farm, just an Allstate. I do the shopping around for you. That way you don't have to do 20 of these phone calls, because no one likes talking to insurance agents on the phone all day. So in order for me to kind of help you out, Stephen, and figure out of the 20 plus companies, which options will make the most financial sense for you, and more importantly, which ones you will qualify for, I will have to ask you a couple of quick health questions and a couple of quick financial questions. It'll take me about 4 minutes just to gather some information. After that, we'll break it down and I'll show you one or two quotes from a couple of different companies. If it doesn't make financial sense, at that point, you push a little red button and you move on with your day. Because again, I'm not some pushy sales guy. I work for you to get you qualified. If it does make financial sense and we could find a quote that you think you would like, then the most important step is we do have to submit an application over the phone. It'll take about 10 to 12 minutes. And on that application, they're going to ask for a lot of your personal information. They're going to ask for your name, they're going to ask for your date of birth, your address, your social, your coverage amount, your beneficiary, your bank account information. Because the whole point of the application is if we submit everything and you get approved, you got your peace of mind and you're covered. And so we're obviously not going to go into asking for all that information if it doesn't make financial sense. But if it does, there's nothing to think about until we actually get you approved, and we will have to submit an application today. So the whole process takes about 5 minutes for a little, underwriting, and then about 10 to 15 minutes for an application, about 20 minutes total. So do you have 20 minutes right now, or do we need to schedule an appointment?
I like that. So if, let's say I don't have 20 minutes right now because I'm at work.
Gotcha. No problem. What time are you off work, Stephen?
5.
5. Okay. And just to verify, I got your phone number is 702-123-4567. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay. Gotcha. Do you receive text on that phone number?
I do.
Okay. Any reason you wouldn't be home tonight between 6 and 7?
I should be home.
Okay. You should be, or you'll definitely be home from work?
I'll be home.
You'll be home. Okay. Gotcha. I'm going to text you right now because I know you're at work and you got to go. I'm going to text you right now my name to that phone number with our appointment tonight between 6 and 7. I'll give you a call. I just need you to confirm that you added it to your calendar with like a thumbs up or something, so I know you got it. But I'm going to call you tonight from that exact phone number I'm going to text you from between 6 and 7. We'll knock this out in 15 to 20 minutes. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, it does.
Great. I'll text you right now. I'll talk to you tonight, Stephen. Have a good day.
Okay. So you do follow up. Like if you can't get them right then and there, you're going to schedule an appointment with them the same day.
Absolutely. Same day. I'm trying to do same day. I'm not trying to push it out. I'm trying to do like as soon as possible. If there's grocery shopping, when will you be home from grocery shopping? In an hour. I'll call you in an hour. I'm not trying to drag this thing out. I'm trying to get it done while it's on their mind.
Right.
Before they start calls from other call centers and stuff.
So the question I have for you is, let's say you don't close it right then and there, you book an appointment with them. How frequent are they actually showing versus no showing you?
Same days. So I've done it 6 times so far, and I've gotten 4 out of 6 back on the phone.
Gotcha.
So, and
Like
out of the
normal
4,
everything else.
Yep, normal numbers. And 3 out of the 4 were same day. One of them was actually the following Monday because they were out of town for the weekend. But I just like booking an in-home, I made sure to know their schedule. So
Right.
I got the call on a Friday. They said they were going out of town. It wasn't a good time. They'll be back Sunday night, and then they work during the week. No problem when you get off. 4:35. When are you home? 6, 7. If I called you Monday between 6 to 7 from my phone number that I'll text you from, any reason you wouldn't be home to pick it up? No, I'll be home. Set up the appointment and called them 3 days later. But because I set it up properly with the text, added to calendar, knowing their schedule, they picked up the phone. So
Right.
gotta take control.
I love that. And then if they're there, you're just basically closing it right then and there.
Yes. And the one thing we didn't role play is whenever I am ready to dive in. So whether it would be an appointment I set up or if it's right there on the spot, last thing I do is, all right, Stephen, before we dive into this, and I ask you a lot of personal information, I need you to, that way, you're dealing with a licensed professional. And if any of your information I'm about to ask you does get compromised, you can report me to the Department of Insurance and I'll go to prison, because I did have to pass background checks and get licensed to talk to you today. So go ahead and grab a pen and paper. That way you can jot down my information and let me know when you're ready. No rush. I give them my name, my national producer number, and I spell it out, and I made them read it back to me. And I say, okay, the reason I do that again is because I'm a licensed. So I take away all the doubts that they're like giving out their social and bank over the phone. You're dealing with a licensed professional. If anything were to happen, you are allowed to report me to the Department of Insurance, and I will go to prison. That's how I know your information's in good hands. And so with that being said, Stephen, let's dive in. And I start the financial inquiry. So
I love that. Wow, that's pretty cool. What's your most common objections that you get from live transfers?
A lot of the same stuff as the in-home, actually. It's the I really was trying to get some information today. Like, I wasn't really ready to commit. I was really just looking around for quotes. Like, yeah, I was talking to another guy and I got his numbers, but no, I'm not going to tell you those. I want to see what you got first, so people just kind of playing hardball with the whole shopping around stuff. And me personally, if I'm in an in-home and someone does not commit to doing an application today, I will walk out in 5 minutes. And it's the same thing with live transfers. If someone does not commit to my process, or it's like, that's great, you got another quote. Do you understand the difference between a quote versus actually qualifying? Right. No, I don't. Or yes, I do, of course. Okay, so as you know, a quote is like a bait and switch. People just throw out their best price to try to win your business, but there's zero guarantee you can actually get that price. I could throw you out my best quote right now, but I guarantee you're not going to qualify for that price. So what's more important, John, is instead of getting a bunch of quotes you could sit on that you're not going to qualify for, what's more important is actually getting an application submitted and a real life offer from an insurance company. And then you can shop that offer around. I have no problem with that. But if you don't have an actual offer from a company, there's 0 point in sitting around on a bunch of quotes. That's not going to do anything for your family, and you're not going to qualify for anyway. Does that make sense, John? Do you see why we have to do an application today? So that's the biggest thing is when people are pushing back about, I had one guy who gave me $100,000 for 44 a month and they're 73 on COPD. And I'm like, John, let's be honest here, bro. So like trying to get to the bottom of that and getting them to realize that there's a reason that we're going to have to do this application. I'll take as long as I have to up front to make that clear. Because if we're not on the same page, you're just wasting your time.
Right.
So,
and see, that's what I want people to understand is just because we're doing live transfers doesn't mean that your job is easier. It doesn't, because there's the same objections are still there, right? Yes. It just means that our job is easier in a sense where we're not driving, getting no showed, this, that, and the other. The objections are still there, and you got to learn how to overcome objections. The difference between a Hall of Fame producer and a 20K producer and someone that's not selling at 20K is how they overcome objections, right? Some people go, Hall of Fame producers don't get objections. You're right, because they set up the in-home to not get objections, right? Yep. Or the 20K producers, they know how to overcome the objections, but they just don't do it well enough yet. Or the brand new agent that's struggling because they don't understand how to overcome or set the table. If you can understand the objections, there's not that many of them. There's maybe like 5, right? Like the common objections are, why do I gotta, do I have to make a decision today, right? I'm shopping or I'm looking for other people. Like, I got to talk to my kids or my wife or whatever it is. Like, those are the most common ones. If you know how to overcome those now and get really good at overcoming those now, you win, right? And the other thing that I tell people this is a strong producer overcomes about 2 to 3 objections in the home before they make their final push. Because if
Yep.
you're pushing someone like 7 times, you shouldn't close that client. It's a waste of time. They're going to cancel. But if you push them 2 to 3 times and they make the decision, go, you know what? Yeah, that's it. I'd do that one. You're good. That's a solid sale. But most people can't get there. You know what I mean? So I love that, Alex. So when you're pre-qualifying clients, are you putting them through the pre-check with Americo? Are you putting them with Aetna? Like, what are you doing in terms of that?
Yeah. So for telesales, by far the easiest application for telesales, in my opinion, is Aetna. Aetna has the security question signature at the end, which the hardest part with doing stuff not face to face is you do have to get their signatures, and most of the time that's an email signature. Aetna does not do it that way. They do it where it's a simple security question, and the way I word it is, all right, so to apply your electronic signature to this application, they just have a security question for you. What is your mother's maiden name? Like, that is 100 times easier than having to say, all right, I'm going to email you a document. Here's your PIN, open it up, click on that button. No, not that button, the other button. Like, and that's what we were talking about, Stephen, where, that's what we're talking about, where there's pros and cons to every carrier. Do I wish that every single company did a pre-check 4 or 5 minutes in and you knew pretty much right away if they're going to qualify or not without doing a whole application? Absolutely. I wish that.
Right.
But am I willing to battle with the DocuSign to get that done? Not always. Sometimes when someone knows exactly what they want, I really dive in on their underwriting and all they've got is one high blood pressure med and that's it. I'm just going to do my Aetna and have it done in 8 minutes and be over with it. So I'd say my top carriers I've written, I would say Aetna. I have done a lot of Americo. I've done a little bit of Mutual of Omaha. Haven't done any AmAm over the phone yet. I have done a John Hancock over the phone. So it just depends on the client need, but my top for final expense for sure is Aetna. The signature process is just so simple and the comp is really great and the prices are very competitive. So
especially since we don't have that 50% Americo rule anymore, and that changes the game, especially for telesales.
That's right. Spot on.
Cool. Hey, so I know a lot of people are also using, the instant internet leads and turning them into live transfers. Can you quickly comment on that or tell us what you think about that? Because tell you the truth, that's what those instant internet leads are doing. When they say, oh, I already bought the insurance. Yeah, they got it on the phone.
Yeah. Me personally, admittedly, I have not done that yet. I heard Josh Williams talk about it on a podcast, and so it's something I want to implement myself, but I have not done it yet. But I think it's brilliant because, like you were saying, especially when you're using work spots, Stephen, we're getting these leads. And again, some of the people I've talked to with these live transfers, at the end, I'll ask them, hey, by the way, how do we get connected today? How did this whole journey start? And some of them were like, yeah, I filled out a form a while ago and I've gotten a couple calls, but once or twice I've gotten disconnected. None of the times it's just been a bad time. So, I had time today when they called, so I figured I would just do it. And in my head, I'm like, dude, that's like a 1 or 3 month internet lead right there.
100%.
Like our 1 or 3 month internet leads have gotten hit up multiple times, but they just haven't pulled the trigger yet. Like there's no difference. And so you think about our 1 or 3 month internet leads or work spots into internet leads, you're getting them for under $10 a pop. And these live transfers are costing you $80, $90, $100. When you do the math, that's like, for instance, that's like 1 in 12, 1 in 15 for like getting someone to talk to. And for age leads, it's like 1 in 30, 1 in 40. Like it's the exact same thing. And that's where I'm saying, like, you can't just flip a switch on live transfer, sit there all day and call it work. Like, grab your internet leads, grab your phone burner, let it rip. And then if you get a call coming in, you're going to know because you save the number in your phone for the live transfer. And so when you see the live transfer phone calling, just pause your phone burner and take the call. So I think it's brilliant. And I think it's a way to actually work without sitting around all day and calling it work.
Right. So I like what Dustin basically said. He's like, it's basically like having your own dialer. Right. You can have a dialer, make your outbound calls on your 3-month-old internet leads, transfer them in right over to you the moment they're ready to sell. So, hey, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A or the chat box right now. I know we have a few that I wanted to bring up to Alex, but Alex, I appreciate you, man, because this has been very thorough. And, especially going into something new, I always say that you look at Andrew Taylor's agency, man, like, what's crazy? Someone just posted the October 2019 bonuses, VP bonuses. And Andrew's bonus was 6,000 2 years ago.
2 years ago, man.
Bonus today is over 600,000 a month. Like, that's crazy. But anyways, But what I'm talking about is, with this whole Andrew thing is when we started using Facebook final expense leads, like the entire company hated them, but Andrew adopted them and he pushed it down, and that's what we did. Right. And then Andrew grew. Andrew went from like the 7th agency to like the 4th or the 3rd. And then all of a sudden, like they brought on instant internet life leads, and everybody's like, ugh, internet life leads, they suck. Guess what he did? He was like, nope, we're running them. And he went from like the 3rd or 4th agency to the #1 agency in FFL. And now with like live transfers and telesales, and people are like, face to face, only way to do it. Andrew's adopting them. You just broke a record month, $18 million last month, premium wise. Like, for those of you that are very, very slow to adapt, like it's going to hurt your business. The reason why we're doing so many of these calls is because we have thousands and thousands of videos on face-to-face sales. Nobody's questioning that. Face-to-face works. But in this day and age, a lot of people love doing things virtually. Like I was just doing a call with Brandon the other day. I went to a doctor on Saturday on the phone because I didn't want to go in the office. No, I'm serious. I went on this website called Plush Care. And it was basically, I had gout and I was like, I need meds. So instead of me going, sitting in a doctor's office, waiting for him to be 30 minutes late, I booked an appointment. He hops on like a Zoom call with me and he goes, hey, what hurts? Da, da, da. I'm like, done. He prescribed me some meds. I'm taking them. Pain's gone. Right. I order my food at DoorDash, Uber Eats.
Yep.
I don't go to the restaurant. You know what I mean? Like I order a lot of my retail products from Amazon. I don't go to the stores anymore. If I go to Target, I'm doing like a pickup, like a drive-through pickup. Like I'm not going in the stores. And a lot of our clients feel this way. So if you don't adjust and adapt to this, you will get left behind. Right. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way. I'm just saying learn both. Right. So like Brandon said, you must be an agent of change. 100% agree with them. So Colton Dewar asked this question earlier. How many states do you have licenses in? I know you answered that already, but if a brand new agent had enough money to get 5 non-resident states, which ones would you recommend?
Oh man, I don't have enough data to know for sure. 2 thought processes there. One is to find the 5 states outside of New York with the highest population, let it rip on those. But the flip side of that is if everyone's doing that, then you're competing with everyone else.
Right.
So then the other thought process is maybe we could find some of those middle ground states that not everyone is working 24/7, like I don't know, Kansas, maybe Georgia. Like I'm sure there's other states out there that like have a big enough population, got some couple major cities, but they're not like a California where you're competing with every single person in the country that also wants their California license. So I don't know if there's a perfect answer, but you just got to figure out what works for you. Whether you
I
just
will say that you did.
Go ahead.
You hit the nail on the head. Do not get New York. Whoever on this call, do not get New York.
Do not get New York.
Yeah, don't get New York. That's the stupidest thing to do. The reason why is because New York has different rules. When you have an insurance company that's literally called the state plus life at the end, like it's different. So, Alex, do you have a live transfer script typed up to share?
I know I sent it over to Caitlin for FFLvirtualsales.com. I don't know if it actually made it on there. If you guys do want to like watch my videos that Steven referenced earlier, my name is Alexander Strate. I have a YouTube channel and I am uploading those recordings I did. So if you did want to go watch those and transcribe it word for word, you could do that, or just watch it and listen to it 3, 4, 5 times to get the word tracks. But it's also basically exactly what you and I did earlier, Steven. That was almost word for word how every call goes.
Right.
Just discovering, asking questions, finding the need. And once I find the need, I just need to establish what we're doing. So check FFLvirtualsales.com. If you find something on there, great. If not, listen to the recording of this call or find my YouTube channel, Alexander Strate on YouTube. And I posted the recordings. And I'm going to do more as well as I continue to do this. I'm going to continue to record myself and post them there. So you guys can subscribe and see more as they pop up. So, right. But I don't know if it's exactly typed out and immediately available. I'm just hoping that it's on the virtual sales site.
Right. So, and I think Devin was the one that asked that question. Devin, my best thing for you is like scripts never work. Right. So like, because the way that I say it and the way you say it might be two different tones, 2 different, pronunciations or whatever it is. And not only that, people want to talk to people. They don't want to talk to somebody on the script. What you want to understand is you want to understand the gist of the phone call, the structure of what happens. Like I remember when I was learning my phone script, everybody's like, this is your 1-page phone script. And I'm like, no, because that's written in your language, not mine. right? So what I will tell people is like in a phone script, there's 4 structures. Like the first part is who you are, where you're calling from. Hey, this is Steven. I'm getting back to you about the form you sent back in for life insurance online, right? Second part is you're going to verify the information. Third is booking the information or booking the appointment. Fourth is cementing it and hanging up. That's the phone structure. You got to learn the structure of a in-home for live transfers. I wouldn't say script because scripts is a really, really bad word. Another question, Alex, this is from an anonymous attendee. Can you explain the live transfer buffer, please?
Yeah. So most live transfers company give you 60 to 1 to 2 minutes, or if it's a bad lead, you can return it and get a credit. I just would say be careful with that because they track that data. And if you're returning a lot of leads, they're going to see that in your account and they're going to stop sending you calls. Mm-hmm. And so I've returned, I think total, maybe 3 or 4 leads. And when I say like those leads were bad, I mean like they were bad.
Right.
And understand the word they're saying bad, kind of bad. And all the calls are recorded so they can go back and listen. And I make it very like, are you there? Like, are you able to understand what I'm saying? I hang up on that one and I request a credit for something like that. Right. So just don't abuse it. Just be a professional. Don't abuse it. If you can't overcome an objection, that's not an excuse to try to get your money back. That's an excuse to get better.
Right.
And improve your skills.
Right. Just because you don't sell it doesn't mean it's not a live transfer. Right. Like that's our skill set. So I've always said this, man. It's like when I was running appointments, I was like, it was my staff's job to get me in the home. But once I got in the home, it was my job to close the business.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, yeah. Tamika asked, where can we find this replay? It will be on YouTube, and you type in FFL SkyPoint, our channel, and you will have all our Get to 20K calls on there. But if there's no other questions, and I don't think there are, Alex, I appreciate you very much, man. Thank you for literally taking an hour of your day and hopping on with us. The knowledge that you are able to give us will shorten a lot of our learning curves. And see, that's the best part about our businesses. Although we're not on the same team, we are on the same team. We're just trying to win, right? We're Team FFL. We're on Sean Mike's team. And at the end of the day, this is the reason why we do these things is because someone can pick up something you said and it can drastically change their entire business. And it changes their business from 10, 15K a month to 10, 15K a week, right? So most of the times, guys, I want you guys to understand that when you make major shifts in your business, it's not because you threw out everything you did and do something new. It's just a shift in philosophy or thought process. It's like when Alex said it took him 8 months to write 20 grand. Why? Because he finally realized I'm not spending $300 a week. I'm going to spend $1,000 this week, right? That isn't a drastic concept. But guess what? He picked that up and it's changed his entire life. So, Alex, thank you so much for dropping all these nuggets, man. We're going to call you McDonald's next time I come see you. All these golden nuggets that you're literally dropping on the team. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much, guys, for hopping on. Hey, I wouldn't be a good promoter if I didn't tell you who's coming on to the call next week. Next week, we have a gentleman named Chris Wasserman. Chris Wasserman sold $60,000 last week. In live transfers. So don't miss that call, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time every Tuesday. And I see you guys soon. Have a great weekend or have a great week.